I'm Sarah,
I'm Dawn.
and we got to be back by dark.
Yeah, we do. We're back
Back again.
for part two.
I'm getting sleepy, but I'm also ready for spooky season.
Yeah, we've been ready.
Yeah, I live my life ready. Witches and black cats. I love me a good black cat.
Trick or treat candy.
Yeah, you gotta have the candy. Which I got some Reese cups in the fridge.
We really should start decorating now.
Well, we should have started decorating a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but like outside.
Yeah. Well, I used to have that really big inflatable cat. The motor died.
You can get a new motor.
Yeah. I guess now I just gotta find the cat.
You lost your 6-foot cat.
Yes, I did. I am talented that way. Just no spooky clowns.
No,
No spooky clowns like, what was that, 2017? The ones that were in the woods. 2016?
they weren't in the woods. They were walking up and down the streets.
Okay, but when was it?
I don't know.
I mean, they were also in the woods, but like they were going after people.
I'm not going to sleep.
Ever again?
No, I'd forgotten about that.
Maybe COVID got them all.
Maybe. Nobody needs to be hiding their identity like that.
Nope.
Putting on a face that's supposed to look fun, but nobody's face looks like that.
No. And if so, then something's wrong.
Yeah. I don't like clowns. I don't like balloons.
No. And you don't like spiders. So she's never actually watched It. Stephen King.
And I'm just fine.
You're happy with it?
Yeah. And speaking of clowns,
Oh,
we got part two of this John Wayne Gacy,
that piece of work.
the killer clown.
Okay, well then let's talk about this piece of work that decided he wanted to torture and kill people.
Yeah, this time we're going to get into the murders. The murder of it all.
The murder of it all.
Gacy murdered at least 33 young men and boys and buried 26 of them in the crawlspace of his house.
Who does that? Who thinks that's a good idea?
John Wayne Gacy.
Well, I mean, I guess, but dude.
His victims included people he knew and random individuals lured from Chicago's Greyhound bus station, Bughouse Square, or simply off the streets. He used a promise of employment with PDM, an offer of alcohol or drugs, and offered money for sex to lure his victims. Some of his victims were grabbed by force. Others were conned into believing Gacy, who often carried a sheriff's badge and had spotlights on his black Oldsmobile, was a policeman.
See, always, even if they have a badge, make sure to get the badge number. And never trust anybody at a bus station.
Don't pull over into your well-lit, populated area.
Yeah, and some people even say, go ahead and call 911 to make sure that they have an officer in that area.
Yeah, if you feel weird about it, go ahead and call him.
Yeah, and even if it is really a cop, that cop might not have good intentions, and it's on record that they were there.
Yeah. Yeah, every little bit we get scam alerts
Yeah.
for that very reason. Gacy usually lured a lone victim to his house, although on more than one occasion he also had what he called doubles, 2 victims killed in the same evening.
So same evening, but not at the same time. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Gacy's usual routine was to ply youth with drink, drugs, and to just generally gain their trust.
It is the 70s.
He would then produce a pair of handcuffs to show a magic trick.
Well, he's a clown.
Sometimes as part of a clowning routine.
See? He's a clown.
He typically cuffed his own hands behind his back, then released himself with the key that he held between his fingers.
Sleight of hand.
Clever.
Mm-hmm.
He then offered to show his intended victim how to release himself from the handcuffs. The trick is you have to have the key.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, there's no magic there.
No, it's
Is
not
it
one
really
of those
a trick?
Yeah, it's not one of those press and release. It's I tricked you. What do you call that?
Gacy referred to this act of restraining his victim as the handcuff trick.
Very creative name.
Handcuffs, trick, handcuff trick.
There you go.
Gacy proceeded to rape and torture his captive. He frequently began by sitting on or straddling himself above his victim's chest before forcing the victim to fillet him.
And he was a big boy.
Yes, he was.
So I wasn't just like some little 120-pound man child sitting on you. He was a big boy. So there was a lot of heft to that.
Yeah, he wasn't just hovering, he put his weight down.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to breathe.
He then inflicted acts of torture, burning with cigars, making his captive imitate a horse as he sat on their back and pulled upon a makeshift rein around their necks. So now they got the big man on their back and they have to crawl.
Yeah, so not only is it the physical, it's the humiliation as well.
Yeah. Violation with foreign objects such as dildos and prescription bottles after he had sodomized his captive.
So he raped them and
Then just used things.
yeah, to further degrade them.
Yeah. He restrained ankles to a 2x4 with handcuffs attached at each end, an act inspired by Houston mass murders.
That's so crazy. I mean, nowadays you can buy something, but that's for consensual acts.
Yeah, none of this was consensual.
No.
He verbally taunted many of his victims throughout the continued abuse. He was known to have dragged or forced several victims to crawl into his bathroom, where he partly drowned them in the bathtub before repeatedly reviving them, enabling him to continue his prolonged assault.
More torture.
And control.
And control, yeah. And humiliation.
Mm-hmm.
And even somebody who were, if they would have gotten away, they were at risk of, I think it's called dry drowning.
Yeah.
Somebody who's been repeatedly drowned, their lungs will fill up with fluid. It could be up to 24, 48 hours later.
Whenever they would ask him to stop, he would let them know that he would kill them when he wanted. So he didn't take that into consideration. That
Right.
They might die anyways.
No, but I mean, even if somebody had gotten away, there's a chance
later.
that, yeah.
Gacy typically murdered his victims by placing a rope tourniquet around their neck before progressively tightening the rope with a hammer handle. He referred to this act as the rope trick, frequently informing his captive, "This is the last trick."
He's just so creative with these names. I mean,
very original.
Yeah.
Who knows what that entails?
Dryer's done. That's not creepy at all.
When the dryer's done, the door automatically opens and it freaks her out every time.
Yeah, it's not right.
One instance, he had read part of Psalms 23 as he tightened the rope around his victim's neck. Gacy has stated victims convulsed for an hour or two before dying. Several victims died by asphyxiation from cloth gags stuffed deep into their throat.
So he gagged them and then put that around their neck?
Uh-huh. And
probably
just tightened it.
Yeah, and probably when he would loosen it to give them a little
breath, they'd suck it in.
They'd suck it in and the gag would come in with it.
Mm-hmm. Except for his two final victims, all were murdered between 3 and 6 a.m.
Of course, nobody's around to see what he's doing.
Right. Gacy stored the victims' bodies under his bed for up to 24 hours before burying his victim in the crawlspace, where he periodically poured quicklime to hasten the decomposition of his victims.
Well, yeah, you gotta get rid of the evidence.
Some victims' bodies were taken to his garage and embalmed prior to their burial.
Well, yeah, because he had worked in a mortuary.
Mm-hmm. And watched them from his cot.
Right, for getting in with them.
Mm-hmm.
But keeping them under his bed for 24 hours makes me think he did things in that 24 hours.
With the dead bodies?
With the dead bodies.
Stomach turning?
Well, the whole thing is stomach turning.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to get a little specific and talk about the murder of Timothy McCoy. January 3rd, 1972 is the date of Gacy's first known murder, and before proper identification was made, his victim was known as Greyhound Bus Boy. Gacy had attended a family party on the evening of January 2nd, but said he decided to drive to the Civic Center in the Loop to view a display of ice sculptures in the early morning hours of the following morning. He lured a 16-year-old named Timothy Jack McCoy from Chicago's Greyhound bus terminal into his car.
It makes me wonder, they didn't know the name, but they knew he was from the Greyhound bus depot? Or they just assumed?
We'll get there.
Okay. It seems very interesting. So what was he doing at the bus station?
McCoy was returning from Christmas vacation in Michigan to his father's home in Omaha, Nebraska. Gacy took McCoy on a sightseeing tour of Chicago and then drove him to his home, Gacy's home.
Right.
To get him to spend the night, Gacy promised the young man he would make sure he made it back to the bus station in time to catch the bus.
I guess it's the bus version of a layover, like at an airport?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. To hear Gacy recall some of these events, it's like he thinks he is courting these boys.
He probably did.
And this first murder was clearly a self-defense misunderstanding, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we believe you.
Gacy claimed that early the following morning he saw McCoy standing in his bedroom doorway with a knife in his hand. He then jumped from his bed and McCoy raised both arms in a gesture of surrender, tilting the knife upwards and accidentally cutting Gacy's forearm. Gacy twisted the knife from McCoy's wrist, banged his head against the bedroom wall, kicked him against his wardrobe, and walked toward him. McCoy then kicked Gacy in the stomach, doubling him over. Gacy then grabbed McCoy and wrestled him to the floor and stabbed him repeatedly in the chest as he straddled him. As McCoy lay dying, Gacy claimed he washed the knife in his bathroom. Then he went to his kitchen and saw an open carton of eggs and a slab of unsliced bacon on his kitchen table. McCoy had also set the table for two. He had walked into Gacy's room to wake him while carrying the kitchen knife in his hand.
Okay, so he was making breakfast for him and Gacy?
Apparently so.
Gacy, okay, so Gacy's trying to say, well, I just thought he was coming to stab me to death.
This is all according to Gacy.
Yeah.
Saying that he came into his room at all.
Right.
Or that there was ever any breakfast. He could have killed him the night before. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what he says happened, is he thought he was under attack. So he went at him.
Yeah.
Killed him. And then went in the kitchen and was like, oh, my bad.
Oops.
I guess you were making breakfast. Gacy buried McCoy in his crawlspace and later covered his grave with a layer of concrete.
Because that's what you do whenever you accidentally kill a teenage boy.
In an interview several years after his arrest, Gacy said that immediately after killing McCoy, he felt totally drained, yet noted that as he stabbed McCoy and as he listened to the gurgulations and gasping for air, that he had experienced a mind-numbing orgasm. He added, "That's when I realized that death was the ultimate thrill."
Yeah, that's normal thoughts.
And I guess we didn't get there, but he was the Greyhound bus boy because that's what Gacy called him.
Ah.
It wasn't until his body was identified that he got a name.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't want to make them human. They were less than human. So he could call them by name.
Right. The second murder, Gacy said the second time he committed murder was around January 1974. Gacy strangled him and placed the body in his closet before burial. He later stated that bodily fluids leaked from the victim's mouth and nose, staining his carpet.
Well, if he worked at a mortuary, he would know that happens.
You would think.
Once somebody passes, especially if they have eaten in the last 24 hours, it's going to come out of the top and the bottom.
And this is why he started stuffing the cloth rags into their mouth to prevent a leakage from occurring.
Yeah, anybody who has, this is going to sound morbid, but anybody who has handled dead bodies or dealt with cleaning up a dead body knows that, especially when you roll them, things come out. It's not a tidy process.
No. And we've worked in long-term care, and that's why we know that.
Yeah. And once an older person or anybody has passed in a nursing home or anything like that, yeah, anything left in their system comes out because there's no muscle tone to keep it there.
Right.
And we have to get them ready for the funeral home to come get them, or the university if they've been donated.
But this victim remains unidentified. The second one.
Yeah.
So he didn't know his name either.
Well, he probably didn't care.
No. July 31st, 1975, John Butkovich, an 18-year-old PDM employee from Lombard disappeared.
Is this the same one we talked about last time?
We did talk about him, yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure it was the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Sounded familiar.
Bukovich's car was found parked near the corner of Sheridan and Lawrence with his jacket and wallet inside and the keys still in the ignition.
That's not a red flag at all.
Mm-mm. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here.
Right.
Bukovich's father, a Yugoslav immigrant called Gacy, who claimed he was happy to help search for his son, but was sorry to say Butkovich had run away.
Right.
So
convenient.
Yeah, the father asked Gacy to help him search for his son, but he was like, oh, he ran away.
Right. Because somebody who is the type to run away is going to tell their boss first.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
When questioned by police, Gacy said Butkovich and two friends had arrived at his house demanding the overdue pay, but they had reached a compromise and all of them left. Like, that's the last time I saw them. They stopped by trying to get paid, but whatever. They reached an agreement and they left.
Did they not question the supposed other two?
Apparently not. For the next 3 years, Butkovich's parents called the police more than 100 times, urging them to investigate Gacy further. So the parents knew
something was up.
Yeah, they're like, no, this did not happen this way.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just an 18-year-old Eastern European boy. He probably just run off to find himself, or he met a girl, or we're not going to use resources for that.
Mm-hmm. Gacy had another story later.
Of course.
He admitted to encountering Butkovich exiting his car at the corner of West Lawrence Avenue and waving to attract his attention. According to Gacy, Butkovich approached his car stating, "I want to talk to you." Gacy invited Butkovich into his car, then invited him back to his home to settle the issue of the overdue wages. At his home, Gacy offered Butkovich a drink, then conned him into allowing his wrist to be cuffed behind his back. Gacy later confessed to having sat on the kid's chest for a while before he strangled him. He stowed Butkovich's body in his garage, intending to bury the body later in the crawlspace. When his wife and stepdaughters returned home earlier than expected, Gacy buried Butkovich's body under the concrete floor of the tool room extension of his garage in an empty space where he had initially intended to dig a drain tile.
Convenient that he was, doing construction on his house. But yeah, I'm sure the cops also were like, leave Gacy alone. He's a nice, upstanding man who helps youth in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. I was just at his house last week for a cookout.
Exactly.
Gacy freely admitted that 1975 was also when he began to increase the frequency of his excursions for sex with young males. He often referred to these jaunts as cruising.
That's not what cruising means, dude.
No, sir. Gacy committed most of his murders between 1976 and 1978, as he largely lived alone following his divorce. He later referred to these as his cruising years.
That's not cruising. Cruising's when you drive around up and down a straight stretch in your town looking to hang out with your friends, not to rape people.
Right.
And murder them.
There's a right way and a wrong way.
Exactly.
Although Gacy remained gregarious and civic-minded, several neighbors noticed erratic changes in his behavior after his 1976 divorce.
Well, yeah.
This included seeing him keeping company with young males, hearing his car arrive or depart in the early hours of the morning, or seeing lights in his home switch on and off in the early hours. Every neighborhood has a lady picking out the blinds.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Somebody's watching you.
Nosy Nancy.
Mm-hmm. One neighbor later recalled that for several years, the sound of muffled, high-pitched screaming, shouting, and crying had repeatedly wakened her and her son in the early morning hours. She identified the sounds as emanating from a house adjacent to theirs on West Somerdale Avenue. Why she didn't call the police?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm here. It sounds like somebody's being tortured.
Yeah, like whenever they're pulling one body after the other out of this house, she's like, oh.
That's what it was. These poor souls. I could have saved numerous people if I had actually done something about my nosiness.
Yeah, because it says that a neighbor later recollected. Like, oh.
Oh yeah. And if it was loud enough to wake her and her son up,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't think to, hey, something might be wrong.
Next is Daryl Sampson. Gacy abducted and murdered 18-year-old Daryl Sampson. He was last seen alive in Chicago on April 6, 1976. Gacy buried him under the dining room with a section of cloth lodged in his throat. On the afternoon of May 14th, 15-year-old Randall Reffitt disappeared shortly after returning to his uptown home from a dental appointment. He was last seen by his grandmother later that afternoon. Hours after he was last seen by his family, 14-year-old Samuel Stapleton vanished as he walked home from his sister's apartment. They were close acquaintances, both buried together in the crawlspace, and investigators believe the two were murdered in the same evening.
They're just getting younger and younger.
Mm-hmm. June 3rd, Gacy killed a 17-year-old Lakeview teenager named Michael Bonin. He disappeared while traveling from Chicago to Waukegan.
Sure.
Gacy strangled Bonin with a ligature and buried him under the spare room.
So he's getting all over the house.
Yeah. 10 days later, June 13th, Gacy murdered a 16-year-old uptown youth named William Carroll and buried him in a common grave in the crawlspace. So I guess a grave that held several.
That's what I was going to say.
Carroll seemed to have been the first of 4 victims known to have been murdered between June 13th and August 6th in 1976. 3 were between 16 and 17 years old, and one unidentified murder victim appears to have been an adult.
So he went on a short spree.
Sounds like it. August 5th, a 16-year-old Minnesota youth named James Hawkinson is last known to have phoned his family, possibly from Gacy's home.
That just puts a chill down your spine.
Mm-hmm. He died of suffocation. His body was buried in the crawlspace beneath the body of a 17-year-old Bensonville youth named Rick Johnston, who was last seen alive on August 6th. Gacy is thought to have murdered 2 further unidentified males between August and October 1976. Friends Kenneth Parker and Michael Marino were abducted and killed by Gacy on October 24th. The 2 were last seen outside a restaurant on Clark Street in Chicago. Will Bundy, 2 years later, he's a 19-year-old construction worker, disappeared after informing his family he was going to attend a party.
Oh.
Bundy died of suffocation. Gacy buried the body beneath the master bedroom. He had apparently worked for Gacy.
So Gacy invited him to a party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't like Gacy's parties.
No,
they're only fun for Gacy.
That is not a party.
No.
It's a nightmare.
Yes, very much so.
Between November and December of 1976, Gacy murdered a 21-year-old named Francis Alexander. His last contact with his family was a phone call to his mother made sometime in November. Alexander was buried in the crawlspace directly beneath the room Gacy used as an office. December 1976, another PDM employee, 17-year-old Gregory Godzik, disappeared.
Man, his employees are just going left and right.
Yeah. But Chicago was the industrial boom.
Yeah.
People were coming in and going.
Yeah, and again, it was
coming in and going.
But plus, they were older teenagers, so people probably just assumed they took off.
Well, they left home for work, probably only called home once a week, something like that, so that leaves a lot of time.
Yeah, because it was the 70s. Kids were free range.
And you had to hunt down a phone.
Yeah, we didn't have cell phones. You had to hunt down a payphone and then have a coin on you.
Gregory's girlfriend last saw him outside her house after he had driven her home following a date. He worked for a PDM for less than 3 weeks before he disappeared. He had informed his family that Gacy had him dig trenches for some kind of drain tiles in his crawl space. Godzik's car was later found abandoned in Niles.
That's a another kind of twisted. Not new, but it's another kind of twisted. Because
Hmm.
that right there tells you he had that boy
Digging graves.
digging his own grave.
Hmm. Hmm. His parents and older sister Eugenia contacted Gacy about Godzik's disappearance. Gacy claimed that he had run away from home, having indicated before that he wished to do so.
Yeah, right. Again, somebody who is the type to run away from home is not going to tell their boss about it first.
Yeah, I won't be into work tomorrow. I'm going to run away.
Right.
Gacy also claimed to have received an answering machine message from Godzik shortly after he had disappeared. When asked if he could play back the message to Godzik's parents, Gacy said he had erased it.
Hmm.
Convenient.
Evidence that's conveniently doesn't exist.
That's what we
That
got.
doesn't happen.
Just did. Just did. January 20th, 1977, Gacy lured 19-year-old John Cizik to his house on the pretext of buying his Plymouth Satellite. He later confessed to strangling him in his spare bedroom, claiming Rossi was asleep in the house the following morning. Gacy later sold that car to Rossi for $300.
That's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. He's got no boundaries.
No, well, no.
March 15th, a 20-year-old Michigan native named John Prestige disappeared. He was last seen leaving a near North Side restaurant. He was buried in the crawlspace above the body of Francis Alexander. Shortly before his disappearance, Prestige had mentioned he had obtained work with a local contractor.
I wonder who that could have been.
Gacy murdered an additional unidentified youth and buried him in the crawlspace in the spring or early summer of 1977. The exact time of this murder is unknown.
That's so sad because that just means another family who has no idea what happened to their kid.
Yeah, hoping they're the one that actually ran away.
Yeah.
July 5th, Gacy killed a 19-year-old from Crystal Lake, Matthew Bowman.
Okay. We keep talking about spooky, but first, in the last episode, we had a Voorhees, and now we're at Crystal Lake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's
All
not
the
Friday the
signs are here.
13th. Yeah, it's not Friday the 13th, but I mean,
Bowman's mother last saw him at a suburban train station. He had intended to travel to Harwood Heights for a scheduled court appointment regarding an unpaid parking ticket. Michael Rossi, a friend of Gacy, was arrested for stealing gasoline while driving Cizik's car. The gas station attendant noted the license plate and police traced the car to Gacy's house.
yeah, don't steal gas. Nowadays they'll take your driver's license too.
Well, you got a prepay now anyways.
Right.
Officers questioned Gacy and he explained that Cizik had sold the car to him in February, saying he needed the money to leave town.
Convenient.
Law enforcement confirmed the car had belonged to Cizik after checking the vehicle identification number, or the VIN. The police did not pursue the matter further, although they did inform Cizik's mother that her son had sold his car.
Of course, because Gacy's a good, upstanding member of the community.
Case closed.
Exactly.
By the end of 1977, it is known Gacy had murdered 6 more young men between the ages of 16 and 21. The first of these victims is 18-year-old Robert Gilroy, the son of a Chicago police sergeant, last seen alive on September 15th. Gilroy lived just 4 blocks away from Gacy's house. He was murdered and buried in the crawlspace.
That's so sad.
It was police sergeant's son,
Yeah.
and they still weren't looking at Gacy.
No, and that just tears you up. The guilt that the father must have felt afterwards.
When John Wayne Gacy was arrested for these murders, he asked the officers if they got the others. His story has remained strong in the fact that he didn't work alone. Like, when I just saw that, reminded me of, I don't know if you have followed the Idaho 4 murders.
Not as much. I've seen some of it, but
Well, the guy, Brian Kohlberger, he pled guilty for killing him.
Right.
But whenever he got arrested, that's what he said, like verbatim.
Yeah.
Did you get the others? So,
that's crazy.
and he was obsessed with serial killers.
Well, of course he was.
September 12th, Gacy had flown to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to supervise a remodeling project and did not return to Chicago until September 16th. Gacy is known to have been in another state at the time Gilroy was last seen. This is cited to support Gacy's claim of assistance from one or more accomplices in several homicides. 10 days after Gilroy was last seen, 19-year-old former U.S. Marine John Mowry disappeared after leaving his mother's house to walk to his apartment.
Wait. 19-year-old former U.S. Marine. How?
I don't know.
But
Maybe he still was a Marine maybe when he died.
yeah. But the whole Gilroy thing, last seen on September 15th, and Gacy didn't get back till the 16th, he wasn't seen after the 15th. Doesn't mean he wasn't around.
True. Gacy strangled Mowry and buried his body beneath the master bedroom. October 17th, 21-year-old Minnesota native Russell Nelson disappeared. He was last seen outside of a Chicago bar. Nelson was looking for contracting work. Gacy murdered him and buried him beneath the guest bedroom. Less than 4 weeks later, Gacy murdered a 16-year-old Kalamazoo teenager named Robert Winch and buried him in the crawlspace. November 18th, 20-year-old father of one, Tommy Bowling, disappeared after leaving a Chicago bar. December 9th, a 19-year-old U.S. Marine David Talsma disappeared after informing his mother he was to attend a rock concert in Hammond, Indiana. Gacy strangled David with a ligature and buried him in the crawlspace close to John Mowry.
So he's taken down 2 Marines now.
Yeah.
He was a big boy.
On December 30th, Gacy abducted 19-year-old student Robert Donnelly from a Chicago bus stop at gunpoint.
Yeesh.
Gacy drove him to his house where he raped, tortured, and repeatedly dunked Donnelly's head into a bathtub until he passed out. Gacy taunted him with statements such as, "Aren't we playing fun games tonight?"
No. No, we're not.
No. Donnelly later testified at Gacy's trial that he was in such pain that he asked Gacy to kill him. Gacy replied, "I'm getting round to it." After several hours, Gacy drove Donnelly to his workplace and released him.
Wow.
Warning him that if he complained to the police, they would not believe him. Which, why wouldn't he say that?
Yeah.
Because so far, they've believed everything Gacy has said.
Just about. Plus, this another common thing with sexual abuse survivors. Don't say anything you won't be believed, and chances are they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Both men and women, children. No, you're making it up. That person would never do. Don't be making things up about this good person. You'll destroy their lives. Well, what about what you're doing to their lives? Oh no, you misunderstood. It didn't really happen. You're just looking for attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, that's correct. Well, Donnelly did not listen to Gacy because he reported the assault and police questioned him on January 6th, 1978.
Good.
Gacy admitted to having a sex slave relationship with Donnelly, but insisted that everything was consensual.
Of course.
Adding that he didn't pay the kid the money he had promised him, so that's why he was mad.
So the bruises and the injuries are because it was a consensual.
It was all part of the game.
BDSM situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The police believed him.
Of course they did.
Filed no charges.
Of course not.
The following month, Gacy killed 19-year-old William Kindred.
Kindred?
Yes.
Sounds familiar.
Well, that's because he's in our family tree.
Of course.
He's a step cousin of the victim.
Lovely. We have a familial connection to the killer clown.
Well, not to him, but his victims.
Well, yeah, but still a connection.
William Kindred disappeared on February 16th after telling his fiancée, who knew Gacy, that he was going to spend the evening at a bar. Kindred was the final victim of Gacy, buried in his crawlspace.
Final victim or final victim?
In the crawlspace.
Okay.
Because on March 21st, Gacy lured 26-year-old Jeffrey Rignall into his car. Shortly after he entered the car, Gacy chloroformed him. He drove him to his house where his arms and head were restrained in a pillory device, affixed to the ceiling, and his feet locked into another device.
You mean like medieval, we're going to throw fruit and veggies at you?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
And Gacy explained to him he had complete control over him and that he intended to do whatever he wanted to him, when he wanted, and how he wanted.
Well, yeah, if he's locked down like that, Gacy does have complete control.
Yeah.
You ain't moving.
Nope. He then raped and tortured Rignall with various instruments, including lit candles and whips, and repeatedly chloroformed him into unconsciousness. Gacy then drove Rignall to Chicago's Lincoln Park, where he was dumped, unconscious but alive. Rignall managed to stagger to his girlfriend's apartment. Police were informed of the assault, but did not investigate Gacy.
Of course not, because he's a fine, upstanding man.
Rignall was able to recall Gacy's Oldsmobile, the Kennedy Expressway, and particular side streets. He and two friends staked out the Cumberland exit of the expressway, and in April, Rignall saw the Oldsmobile, which they followed to 8213 West Summerdale.
Sounds familiar.
It's Gacy's house. Police obtained an arrest warrant, and Gacy was arrested on July 15th.
Good.
He faced trial for battery against Rignall.
Let's ignore the rape charge.
By 1978, the crawl space had no room for further bodies.
Sounds like it. A little full.
Gacy later confessed to police that he considered stowing bodies in his attic, but he'd been worried about the complications from the leakage. Therefore, he chose to dispose of his victims off the I-55 bridge into the Des Plaines River. Gacy stated he had thrown 5 bodies into this river in 1978, one of which he believed to have landed on a passing barge.
Oh, that's a lovely find for those barge workers later.
Well, only 4 were ever found.
Dang.
The first known victim thrown from the I-55 bridge was 20-year-old Timothy O'Rourke. He was murdered in mid-June after leaving his Dover Street apartment to purchase cigarettes. Shortly before his disappearance, O'Rourke had told his roommate a contractor on the Northwest Side had offered him a job.
Wonder who that could have been.
November 4th, Gacy killed 19-year-old Frank Landingen. His naked body was found close to an inlet in the Des Plaines River by 2 duck hunters in Channahon on November 12th. On November 24th, a 20-year-old Elmwood Park resident named James Mazzara disappeared after sharing Thanksgiving dinner with his family. Mazzara had informed his sister the day prior to his disappearance that he was working in the construction industry and doing all right.
Yeah, until Gacy got a hankering for another victim.
He was last seen alive walking in the direction of Bughouse Square carrying a suitcase. On the afternoon of December 11th, 1978, Gacy visited the Nissen Pharmacy in Des Plaines to discuss a potential remodeling deal for the store owner, Phil Torf. While he was within earshot of 15-year-old part-time employee Robert Peast, Gacy mentioned his firm often hired teenage boys at a starting wage of $5 per hour, almost double the pay that Peast earned at the pharmacy.
I was going to say, that sounds like a really good price for that time. Because I think minimum wage was like $3.
Something like that. His mother arrived at the store to drive him home so the family could celebrate her birthday together. He asked his mother to wait, adding that some contractor wants to talk to me about a job. He left the store at 9 p.m., promising to return shortly. Peast was murdered shortly after 10 p.m. at Gacy's home. Gacy later stated that at his house he gave Peast a soft drink before asking whether there was anything he wouldn't do for the right price. To which Peast replied that he did not mind working hard. In response, Gacy stated good money could be earned by hustling, although Peast was dismissive. Gacy then duped Peast into donning handcuffs before saying, "I'm going to rape you, and you can't do anything about it," as Peast began weeping.
Yeah, and on his mother's birthday.
Yeah, his mom came to pick him up from his job to take him home so they could have dinner and birthday cake and everything.
And only weeks before Christmas.
And he's like, hold on, Mom. This guy has a job that I can do. I'm going to go talk to him about this job.
Yeah.
Gacy's statements regarding the events to unfold varied, although in one of his initial statements he claimed Peace failed to resist as he removed the boy's trousers. He also stated that as he placed the rope around Peace's neck, the boy was crying scared.
Yeah, he's not going to resist. He's too terrified.
Yeah. Gacy admitting to having received a phone call from a business acquaintance as Peace lay dying, suffocating on his bedroom floor. Just taking a business call.
Yeah, and he probably thought that if he didn't resist, he'd get out of it alive.
When Peace failed to return, his family filed a missing persons report with the police. Torf named Gacy as the contractor Peace had most likely left the store to talk to about a job. Lieutenant Joseph Kozenczak, whose son attended Maine West High School, like Peace, chose to investigate Gacy further.
Good, somebody needed to.
Having spoken with Peace's mother on the morning of December 12th, Kozenczak became convinced Peace had not run away from home. No, he had plans that evening.
Right. Not every kid that goes missing is a runaway.
No. A routine check of Gacy's criminal background revealed that he had an outstanding battery charge against him in Chicago and had served a prison sentence in Iowa for the sodomy of a 15-year-old boy.
Look how easy that was to find.
He just had to look.
Right.
Kozenczak and 2 other police officers visited Gacy at his home the following evening. Gacy indicated that he had seen the 2 youths working at the pharmacy and that he had asked one of them, whom he believed to be Peace, whether there were any remodeling materials behind the store. He was adamant, however, that he had not offered Peace a job and had only returned to the pharmacy shortly after 8 p.m., as he had left his appointment book at the store.
Right. It might have been that kid, but I can't be certain that that's who I talked to.
I was here,
but I didn't offer to talk to him any further than that. I didn't single him out in any way.
Yeah, and he promised to come to the station later to make a statement confirming that.
Sure.
Indicating he was unable to do so at that moment as his uncle had just died.
And they let it go.
When questioned as to how soon he could come to the police station, he responded, "You guys are very rude. Don't you have any respect for the dead?"
Look who's talking.
At 3:20 a.m., Gacy arrived at the police station covered in mud, claiming he had been involved in a car accident. On returning to the police station later that day, Gacy denied any involvement in Peace's appearance and repeated that he had not offered him a job. And when he was asked why he returned to the pharmacy, Gacy reiterated that he had done so in response from a phone call from Torf informing him that he had left his appointment book at the store. Detectives had already spoken with Torf, who denied calling Gacy. At the request of detectives, Gacy prepared a written statement detailing his movements on December 11th. Suspecting Gacy might be holding Peace against his will at his home, the police obtained a warrant to search Gacy's house on December 13th. The search of Gacy's property revealed several suspicious items, including several police badges and a starter pistol inside of an office drawer, and a syringe and hypodermic needle inside a cabinet in Gacy's bathroom.
Suspicious. Although, what's suspicious about a starting pistol?
Well, when found with other things.
I'm just thinking, I was like, you can't really shoot people with a starting pistol. But, I mean, somebody who doesn't know any better, yeah, they'd be afraid of getting shot, I guess.
Investigators also found handcuffs, several books on homosexuality and pederasty, with titles such as The Great White Swallow and Pretty Boys Must Die.
Ew.
Yeah. 7 pornographic films, capsules of amyl nitrate, and an 18-inch dildo in Gacy's bedroom. A 39-inch 2x4 with 2 holes drilled in at each end, bottles of Valium and atropine, and several driver's licenses were found in the northwest bedroom.
Yikes. That's some hardcore stuff.
How'd you get all that, sir?
Right? I mean, My thoughts are atropine. Well, it probably wasn't as controlled as it is now.
I don't know.
The only time I've heard of people using atropine is
End of life.
end of life, part of the cocktail.
A blue hooded parka was found atop a toolbox inside the laundry room, and underwear too small to fit Gacy was located inside of a bathroom closet. In the northwest bedroom, investigators found a class of 1975 Maine West High School ring engraved with the initials JAS. Investigators also recovered a Nissan Pharmacy photo receipt from a trash can alongside a 36-inch section of nylon rope. Just a few suspicious things.
Yeah, just a few. And the ring, it does not say JWG.
Mm-mm.
So, wonder who that could belong to.
Not John Wayne Gacy.
Nope.
The police confiscated Gacy's Oldsmobile and other PDM work vehicles. Police assigned two-man surveillance teams to monitor Gacy on a rotation 12-hour basis as they continued their investigation into his background and potential involvement in Peace's disappearance. These surveillance teams consisted of officers Mike Albrecht and David Hockmeister, and Ronald Robinson and Robert Schultz. The following day, investigators received a phone call from Michael Rossi, who informed the investigators of Greg Grodsick's disappearance and the fact that another PDM employee, Charles Hatula, had been found drowned in an Illinois river earlier that year.
Wow.
There's a lot of people that think the accomplice that John Wayne Gacy was talking about was Michael Rossi.
Yeah, and that would make sense if he was an accomplice.
He'd know where the bodies are.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and throw all of the heat on Gacy.
Mm-hmm. On December 15th, investigators obtained further details of Gacy's battery charge, learning the complaint Jeffrey Rignall had reported that Gacy had lured him into his car and chloroformed, raped, and tortured him before dumping him, with severe chest and facial burns and rectal bleeding in Lincoln Park the following morning. Battery charge.
Right. But, well, remember they said it was all BDSM gone wrong.
Uh-huh. Yeah, sex slave games.
Yeah.
The same day, the Maine West High School ring was traced to a John Allen Sizik. An interview with his mother revealed that several items from her son's apartment were also missing, including a Motorola TV set. By December 16th, Gacy was becoming affable with the surveillance detectives, regularly inviting them to join him for meals in restaurants and occasionally for drinks in bars or at his home.
All right, he's giving Ed Kemper energy right now.
Yeah, he wants to go hang out with the cops, see what they know.
Yeah, see what they know, make him buddy. Oh, see me, I'm just a nice guy. I'm just a regular guy. I wouldn't do anything like that.
He repeatedly denied that he had anything to do with Peace's disappearance and accused the officers of harassing him because his political connections or because of his recreational drug use.
Right.
They're picking on him.
They're picking on me because they don't like me, not because I did all these things.
And knowing these officers were unlikely to arrest him on anything trivial, he taunted them by flouting traffic laws and succeeded in losing his pursuers more than once.
Well, yeah, they're not going to get him for a traffic violation when they're after him for murder.
Right. That afternoon, Cram consented to a police interview in which he described Gacy's hard-working lifestyle and open-minded attitude about sex between men. Cram also revealed that because of his poor timekeeping, Gacy had once given him a watch, explaining he got it from a dead person. Does that not alarm you about your friend?
No, not at all.
They're just kidding, right?
I got it from a dead person. Okay, that's normal. Not even in my line of work is that normal, people. Telling somebody you got it from a dead person?
Oh, no.
Exactly.
No, but I have had people come in and remove jewelry off people once they pass, like immediately.
Yeah.
And it's very disturbing.
It is very disturbing.
Investigators conducted a formal interview of Rossi on December 17th. He informed them that Gacy had sold Sizek's vehicle to him, explaining that he had bought the car from Sizek's because he needed extra money to move to California. A further examination of Gacy's Oldsmobile was conducted on this date. In the course of examining the trunk of the car, investigators discovered a small cluster of fibers they suspected to be human hair. That evening, officers conducted a test using 3 trained German Shepherd search dogs to determine whether Peast had been present in any of Gacy's vehicles. One dog approached Gacy's Oldsmobile and lay on the passenger seat, and what the dog handlers informed investigators was a death reaction, indicating Peast's body had been present in the vehicle.
Yeah, and dogs can tell if the person was alive or dead at that time, because there are different smells.
Yeah.
Like, even we know that once a person passes, there is a different smell.
Oh, I don't want to talk about that.
Okay. We'll move on.
PTSD. That evening, Gacy invited detectives Albrecht and Hockmeister to a restaurant for a meal. In the early hours of December 18th, he invited them into another restaurant where, over breakfast, he talked of his business, his marriages, and his activities as a registered clown. At one point during the conversation, Gacy remarked, "You know, clowns can get away with murder." That's what I'm saying.
That's what he's trying. Yeah, and that's what he's trying to say. Is I'm just fooling around. I'm just playing around. Jokes. Yeah.
By December 18th, Gacy was beginning to display signs of strain from the constant surveillance.
Poor baby.
He was unshaven, looked tired, appeared anxious, and he was drinking heavily.
Well, yeah, he knows they're going to catch him. Yeah, and he can't hurt anybody because he's under constant surveillance. He's jonesing.
Well, that afternoon, he drove to his lawyer's office to prepare a $750,000 civil suit against the police department.
Of course.
Demanding they cease their surveillance immediately.
Yeah, he can't get any victims if they're surveilling him.
Right. That's the real problem.
It's the real reason, probably.
The same day, the serial number of the Nissan Pharmacy photo receipt found in Gacy's kitchen was traced to a 17-year-old Kimberly Byers, a colleague of Peast at Nissan Pharmacy. Byers admitted when contacted in person the following day that she had worn the jacket on December 11th to shield herself from the cold. She had placed the receipt in the parka pocket just before she gave the coat back to Peast as he left the store, claiming a contractor wanted to speak with him.
Oh, but Gacy never talked to him outside of the store.
This statement contradicted Gacy's previous statements that he had no contact with Robert Peast on the evening of December 11th.
Exactly.
The same evening, Rossi was interviewed a second time. This time he was more cooperative. He informed detectives that in the summer of 1977, at Gacy's request, he had spread 10 bags of lime in the crawlspace of Gacy's house. On December 19th, investigators began compiling evidence for a second search warrant for Gacy's house. The same day, Gacy's lawyers filed the civil suit against the police department. The hearing for the suit was scheduled for December 22nd. That afternoon, Gacy invited the surveillance detectives inside his house again. As Officer Robinson distracted Gacy with conversation, Officer Schultz walked into Gacy's bedroom in an unsuccessful attempt to write down the serial number of the Motorola TV they suspected belonged to John Cizik. While flushing Gacy's toilet, the officer noticed a smell he suspected could be that of rotting corpses emanating from a heating duct.
Ew. So they were using Gacy's trying to be friendly against him.
Yeah.
Good.
We'll go in here and you distract him. I'll go through his stuff.
Yeah, because he's all about trying to have a conversation, make us think that we're buddies.
The officers who had searched Gacy's house previously had failed to notice this, as the house had been cold. Investigators interviewed both Cram and Rossi on December 20th. Rossi had agreed to be interviewed in relation to his possible links with John Cizik, as well as the disappearance of Robert Peast. When questioned as to where he believed Gacy had concealed Peast's body, Rossi replied Gacy may have placed the body in the crawlspace, adding that he thought Cizik's car was stolen. Rossi agreed to submit to a polygraph test. He denied any involvement in Peast's disappearance, also denying any knowledge of his whereabouts. He soon refused to continue the questioning, and Rossi's erratic and inconsistent responses to questions while attached to the polygraph machine, unable to render a definite opinion as to the truthfulness of his answers.
So this is making you think that maybe he was in on it. Even if not the torture and rape, but the very least hiding the bodies.
I want to know what the questions are that
he didn't want to answer.
Tipped him into being erratic and inconsistent.
Right. Well, I just don't know why they were doing it to begin with, because it's inadmissible in court.
Rossi did, however, discuss the trench digging he did in the crawlspace and remarked on Gacy's insistence that he not deviate from where he was instructed to dig, like just right here, nowhere else.
Yeah.
Cram informed investigators of Gacy's attempts to rape him in 1976. He stated that after he and Gacy had returned to his home after the December 13th search of his property, Gacy had turned pale after seeing a clot of mud on his carpet where he suspected had come from his crawl space. Cram said Gacy had grabbed a flashlight and immediately entered the crawl space to look for evidence of digging. When asked whether he had been to the crawl space, Cram replied he had only been once asked by Gacy to spread the lime down there and to also dig trenches, which Gacy had explained were draining pipes. Cram stated that these trenches were 2 feet wide and 6 feet long and 2 feet deep, the size of graves.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a bit excessive for drainage.
Mm-hmm. On the evening of December 20th, Gacy drove to his lawyer's office in Park Ridge to attend a scheduled meeting to discuss the progress of his civil suit. On his arrival, Gacy appeared disheveled and immediately asked for an alcoholic drink, whereupon Sam fetched a bottle of whiskey from his car. On his return, he asked Gacy what he wanted to discuss. Gacy picked up a copy of the Daily Herald from his desk and pointed to the front page article covering the disappearance of Robert Peast and said, "This boy's dead. He's dead. He's in a river." Gacy proceeded to give a rambling confession that ran into the early hours of the following morning. He began by informing him and Stevens that he had been the judge, jury, and executioner of many, many people, and that he now wanted to be the same for himself.
Because he couldn't do it anymore. They wouldn't let him.
Yeah, he wasn't able to murder anymore, so might as well give up, I guess. He said that he had murdered at least 30 victims, most of whom he had buried in his crawl space, and had disposed of 5 other bodies in the river. Gacy dismissed his victims as male prostitutes and hustlers and liars to whom he had given the rope trick, adding he sometimes awoke to find dead strangled kids on his floor with their hands cuffed behind their back.
Oh, so he's blaming the blackouts that he had as a kid.
Yeah, and then he would wake up and they're dead.
Ah, so it wasn't his fault.
No.
No.
So what does he do? Buries them in the crawl space.
Exactly.
As he believed they were his property now.
Of course.
As a result of the alcohol he had consumed, Gacy fell asleep midway through his confession.
Yeah, because they were less than nothing to him, so it's okay if I fall asleep talking about it.
A psychiatric appointment was immediately arranged for Gacy at 9 a.m. that morning.
Well, yeah, sounds like it's needed.
Mm-hmm. On awakening several hours later, Gacy shook his head when informed that he had confessed to killing approximately 30 people, saying, "Well, I can't think about this right now. I've got things to do."
Right.
Ignoring his lawyer's advice regarding his scheduled appointment, Gacy left their office to attend to the needs of his business.
Wait, so he was allowed to leave?
Yeah, he went to work.
Ay.
Gacy later recollected his memories of his final day of freedom as being hazy, adding he knew his arrest was inevitable and that he intended to visit his friends and say his final farewells.
Well, he gave them all the ammunition they needed. They knew where to look now. And they had a somewhat confession.
Yeah, I still don't think he should be able to visit his friends and say goodbye.
No, he shouldn't.
After leaving his lawyer's office, he drove to a gas station where, in the course of filling his rental car, he handed a small bag of cannabis to the attendant, who immediately handed the bag to the surveillance officers, adding that Gacy had told him, "The end is coming for me. These guys are going to kill me." Gacy then drove to the home of a fellow contractor and friend, Ronald Rode. Gacy hugged him before bursting into tears, saying, "I've been a bad boy. I've killed 30 people, give or take a few."
Wait, the first confession, was it to his lawyers?
Yes.
Oh, well, no wonder they let him go. Attorney-client privilege, they can't say anything.
No, they were just like, he needs something.
Yeah.
We're going to make an appointment. Gacy left Rode and drove to Cram's home to meet with Cram and Rossi. As he drove along the expressway, the surveillance officers noted he was holding a rosary to his chin, praying while he drove. After talking with Cram and Rossi, Gacy had Cram drive him to a scheduled meeting with a lawyer, Leroy Stevens, on the northwest side.
Leroy?
Leroy. As Gacy spoke with Stevens, Cram informed the surveillance officers that Gacy had told him and Rossi that he had confessed to over 30 murders with his lawyers the previous evening. Gacy then had Cram drive him to the Mayhill Cemetery where his father was buried. As Gacy drove to various locations that morning, police outlined the formal draft of their second search warrant specifically to search for the body of Robert Peast in the crawlspace.
Yeah, because that's the only one they can get any sort of search warrant for. They can't add any other names till they get more information.
And that's who they're currently looking for.
Right.
On hearing from the surveillance detectives that, in light of his erratic behavior, Gacy might be about to commit suicide, police decided to arrest him on a charge of possession and distribution of cannabis in order to hold him in custody as the formal request for a second search warrant was presented.
I would say, oh no, they're going to save his life. But you got to have closure for the families.
Accountability.
Yeah, he's got to pay for his crimes.
Right.
Before he dies and pays for his crimes.
He doesn't deserve that.
No.
At 4:30 p.m. on December 21st, the eve of the hearing of Gacy's civil suit, Judge Marvin J. Peters granted the request for a second search warrant. After police informed Gacy of their intentions to search his crawlspace for the body of Peast, Gacy denied the teenager was buried there, but confessed to having killed in self-defense a young man whose body was buried under his garage.
Of course, because then maybe they'll look there, and it was only self-defense, and ignore all the other bodies.
Even though you've been saying all day that you killed over 30 people.
Right.
Armed with the signed search warrant, police and evidence technicians drove to Gacy's home. On their arrival, officers found Gacy had unplugged his sump pump, flooding the crawl space with water to clear it.
Of course, anything to get rid of any remaining evidence.
They simply replaced the plug and waited for the water to drain. After it had done so, evidence technician Daniel Gentry entered the crawl space and crawled to the southwest area and began digging. Within minutes, he had uncovered putrefied flesh and a human arm bone. Gentry immediately shouted to the investigators that they could charge Gacy with murder, adding, "I think this place is full of kids."
I can't even imagine. He's expecting one, maybe two bodies, and he walks into that.
Yeah, it's full. A police photographer then dug into the northeast corner of the crawlspace, uncovering a patella.
A patella, a knee bone.
Correct.
Your kneecap.
Yep. The two then began digging in the southeast corner, uncovering two lower leg bones. The victims were too decomposed to be pieced. As the body discovered in the northeast corner was later unearthed, a crime scene technician discovered the skull of a second victim alongside this body. Later, excavations of the feet of the second victim revealed a further skull beneath the body. Because of this, technicians returned to the trench where the first body was unearthed, discovering the rib cage of a fourth victim within the crawlspace, confirming the scale of these murders. Whew.
Yeah, that's a lot. They're like, they just keep coming. We just keep finding more and more and more. You would think they'd be like, I'm done. I don't want to go anymore.
Yeah. And it's just one on top of the other.
Just thrown away.
After being informed that the police had found human remains in his crawlspace and that he would now face murder charges, Gacy told the officers he wanted to clear the air, adding he had known his arrest was inevitable since the previous evening, which he had spent on the couch in his lawyer's office. In the early morning hours of December 22nd, and in the presence of his lawyers, Gacy provided a formal statement in which he confessed to murdering approximately 30 young males, all of whom he claimed had entered his house willingly.
Right. All of them got there because they wanted to. Okay.
Some victims were referred to by name, but Gacy claimed not to know or remember most of the names.
Because they didn't matter to him.
No. He claimed all were teenage male runaways or male prostitutes, the majority of whom he had buried in his crawlspace.
Well, even if they were prostitutes, Who cares? They're still people.
Even if they were consenting to being
Something.
tied up,
Yeah. And having sex.
or even crawling on their hands and knees while you rode them like a pony.
Right.
That doesn't mean you had to do all of that other stuff and kill them.
Right.
Gacy claimed to have dug only 5 of the victims' graves in this location and had his employees dig the remaining trenches so that he would have graves available.
There's premeditation.
One victim hailed from Round Lake. Another had been a Michigan native. When shown a driver's license issued to Robert Hasen, which had been found on his property, Gacy claimed not to know him but admitted that his license had been in the possession of one of his victims.
Oh, so he's saying that, well, it's okay. The guy murdered, he was a thief. He probably did something to that person.
I don't know this guy, but this other guy I do know, he had the license on him.
This other guy that you already found. Right.
With no name. In January 1979, he had planned to conceal the corpses even further by covering the entire crawl space with concrete. When questioned specifically about Peast, Gacy confessed to luring him to his house and strangling him on the evening of December 11th. He also admitted to having slept alongside Peast's body that evening, before disposing the corpse in the river in the early morning hours of December 13th.
Ew!
There's so much ew here.
Yes.
On his way to the police station, he had been in a minor traffic accident after disposing of Peast. His vehicle had slid off an ice-covered road and had to be towed off from its location.
Oh, poor baby.
Accompanied by police, his lawyers, and his older sister, Gacy was driven to the I-55 bridge on December 23rd to pinpoint the precise spot where he confessed to have thrown the body of Robert Peast and 4 other victims into the river. Gacy was then taken to his house and instructed to mark his garage floor with orange spray paint to show where he had buried the individual he had supposedly killed in self-defense, whom he named as John Buckovich.
I hope they went ahead and checked the whole floor and not only where he marked.
Oh yeah, the whole place was turned up. To assist officers in their search for the victims buried beneath his house, during his confession, Gacy drew a rough diagram of his basement on a phone message sheet to indicate where their bodies were buried. 26 bodies were unearthed from Gacy's crawl space over the next week.
And a phone message? That doesn't mean like on your cell phone. It's like a notepad.
So while you were gone.
Yes.
Cook County Medical Examiner Robert Stein supervised the exhumations. Each victim unearthed from the crawl space was placed in a body bag, which was placed near the front door, awaiting transportation to the mortuary. The crawl space was marked in sections, and each body was given an identifying number.
They probably had ambulances and vans just back and forth all day.
They did. And because there is like news coverage of that.
Yeah.
The media was outside just watching.
Well, yeah, there's no way they could keep that under wraps.
Nope.
The sheer volume alone.
The first body recovered from the crawl space was assigned a marker denoting the victim as Body 1. Gacy had buried this victim in the northeast section of the crawl space directly beneath the room he used as an office. No cause of death could be determined. The body of John Buckovich was labeled as Body Number 2. December 23rd, investigators returned to unearth 3 more corpses which had been buried in the same trench as Body Number 1. Body number 3 was in the crawl space directly above body number 4. Alongside them, body number 5 was buried directly beneath body number 1. This victim was buried 36 inches below the surface of the soil, indicating he was the first to be buried in this common grave.
So 3 feet.
Yep. The search for victims was postponed temporarily over Christmas. 4 more bodies were unearthed on December 26th. Bodies number 6 and 7 were buried in the same grave. Body 7 was found in the fetal position. A cloth gag found in the mouth, leading investigators to conclude this victim most likely died of asphyxiation.
Understandably.
Body number 8 was found with the tourniquet used to strangle him still knotted around his neck. Body number 9 was found beneath a layer of concrete and was found to have several stab wounds to the ribs and sternum, suggesting he was Gacy's first victim. On December 27th, 8 more bodies were discovered. Body number 10 was buried face upward, parallel to the wall of the crawl space directly beneath the entrance to Gacy's home. Both bodies 11 and 12 were found face down with a ligature around their neck, and both were buried beside each other in the center of the crawl space directly beneath the hallway. Body 13 was found beneath the spare bedroom. Bodies 14 and 15 were recovered from a common grave diagonal to body 10. Both 14 and 15 were found with their head and upper torso inside separate plastic bags. Body 16 found close to body 13, although in a separate trench further north of the south wall. Most serial killers have a routine.
Yeah.
It seems like he just went through them all. Like, I'm going to strangle. I'm going to drown. I'm going to tie them up. I'm going to hang them.
Sounds like he tried them all to see which one felt best for him. What can I get the biggest thrill out of?
Yeah, what am I going to do today?
So more like a thrill killer.
Body 16 was found close to body 13, although in a separate trench further north of the south wall. This victim was found with a cloth rag lodged deep in his throat, causing him to die of suffocation. The 17th victim was found with a ligature around his neck. The following day, 4 more bodies were exhumed. Body 19 was buried directly beneath Gacy's master bedroom, perpendicular to body 18, which was located beneath the spare bedroom and found with a ligature around the neck. Body 20 was buried in the northwest corner of the crawl space, perpendicular to body 19. By December 29th, 6 more bodies were unearthed. Bodies 22, 23, 24, and 26 were buried in a common grave located beneath Gacy's kitchen and laundry room, with body 25 located beneath Gacy's bathroom. Body 22 was found directly beneath Gacy's kitchen with a section of cloth-like material lodged in his throat. 2 socks were recovered from his pelvic region. This victim was buried directly beneath body 21. The bones of victims 23 and 24 were commingled together, and a section of cloth was found inside the mouth of bodies 24 and 26. Body 25 was found beneath Gacy's bathroom with a section of cloth lodged in his throat as well. The final victim, recovered from the crawl space, was also found beneath the bathroom, buried 10 inches below the surface of the soil. This victim was found to have a section of cloth lodged deep in his throat. Operations were suspended due to the Chicago blizzard of 1979, but resumed in March despite Gacy's insistence that all the buried victims had been found.
Right. Yeah, that was it was before we were born, but that hit here too. The blizzard of 78 and 79.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's whenever they said the Ohio River actually froze.
Wow.
Because one of the guys I used to work with said his dad, while drunk, decided to walk across it.
Brave or stupid?
Well, drunks bounce. He survived. Obviously. Guys our age.
On March 9th, body 28 was found wrapped within several plastic bags and buried beneath the patio, approximately 15 feet from the barbecue pit in Gacy's backyard. On March 16th, body 29 was found beneath the dining room floor. All the victims discovered at 8213 West Summerdale were in an advanced state of decomposition.
Well, yeah, quicklime.
Mm-hmm. Dental records and x-ray charts helped Stein identify the remains. 23 victims were identified via dental records, with 2 further victims identified via skeletal trauma. These
like if you break a bone or get a pin in from surgery. Yeah.
These identifications were also supported with the personal artifacts found in Gacy's home. The head and upper torso of several bodies unearthed beneath Gacy's property had been placed into plastic bags. Several were also found with a rope still around their neck. In some cases, bodies were found with the foreign objects, such as prescription bottles, lodged into their pelvic region, the position of which indicated the items had been thrust into the victims.
Well, I'm sorry, unless he just decided to lay a pill bottle on top of them as they're being buried, if it's in the pelvic area, you know that's what happened.
Yeah. Stein concluded 12 victims recovered from Gacy's property died not of strangulation, but of asphyxiation. And Gacy's vacant home was demolished
Good.
in April 1979.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to want to buy that house. I mean, there are still some houses from murders, but not 33. And not when all the victims were buried at that house. I mean, talk about a haunting. So, part 3 shall be his trial and after.
Yeah. In part 3, we'll get into who was found in the river, and there's a few other witness statements, some survivors.
Yeah, because he didn't kill everybody, he harmed.
Right. And then the trial and execution.
Yes. I knew he was dead because when Sam and Dean fought him, it was his ghost.
Yeah, Sam and Dean took care of him.
They did. Dean killed Hitler and they fought John Wayne Gacy.
All right. Well, that was a lot.
That was a lot, and it was
A lot.
a lot. It was a lot, yeah. But we might have to do a little chill between 2 and 3.
Everybody go watch a cartoon.
Yeah, go watch Disney. We might have to tell us a short spooky.
Right now?
No. Before we get to part 3.
Oh, part 3 is the good part where he gets charged.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that was hard.
Yeah, it was. Okay.
Well, that'll do us for tonight.
Watch a cartoon, turn on Disney, call your mom, something.
Or even just like, I don't know, watch Wednesday.
Yeah, you go.
Watch Stranger Things. It can be spooky. It can be creepy, but...
All right. Signing off.
Well, that's us for tonight.
Like and subscribe and all the things.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.